Dr. Amy, and it is time for another Tuesday tip for Genetic Rockstars. If you don't know, Genetic Rockstars is an MTHFR community, which is amazing. We are all growing and getting better and learning about our MTHFR together, plus having a bunch of laughs about it along the way. So it's amazing. One of my favorite things. So last month, in our last Tuesday tip, we touched on homocysteine, but I really want to deep dive into homocysteine this month because it's such an important topic for MTHFR. So let's kind of cover some of the basics. With the MTHFR enzyme, that sits in the middle of a cycle called the methionine cycle, right? And where methionine, one of the amino acids that we eat in proteins, is converted to SAMe, and that is our universal methyl donor, and we need it very much, very much. But then as we use SAMe and take the methyl group off, it actually converts to homocysteine, which is a byproduct of this cycle. Now, homocysteine is not useless. It does actually convert to alpha-ketobutyrate, which is one of our kind of ingredients in the cellular energy cycle, so we need that, and it converts to glutathione, which is our master antioxidant. So it is not that we need no homocysteine, we need some. But what we don't want is the buildup that's caused when homocysteine has to go through the MTHFR gene to convert back to methionine. If the MTHFR gene is not working especially well, then what we see is too much homocysteine building up in the bloodstream. That's where we get into a problem. So when you go to get, homocysteine is a really common blood test that's run by doctors. It's not anything controversial. It's not anything like woo-woo or alternative. It's just a really normal blood test. The blood should be drawn fasting, which means go to the lab first thing in the morning before you've eaten. Because if you've recently eaten a high protein meal, sometimes that can make your homocysteine look higher than it is. So it should be drawn fasting. The normal range for homocysteine is usually considered between 5 and 15 micromoles per liter-ish. And that depends a little bit on the lab. Sometimes there's a slight bit of variability, but usually it's between 5 and 15 micromoles per liter. Now that's actually a pretty wide range. Everything above 15 micromoles is considered high or hyperhomocysteinemia. But I feel like the normal levels should be adjusted a little bit, especially for people with the MTHFR polymorphism, where we really want to be extra cautious about some of the effects of high homocysteine moving forward. Quick rundown of those. This is not exhaustive, but some of the effects of high homocysteine is like increased fracture risk, which is random but true. The biggest one is increased cardiovascular risk, so risk for clots, heart attacks, strokes, and general vascular disease like atherosclerosis, that sort of thing. Also, increased risk in pregnancy of pregnancy complications like preeclampsia, and that's something nobody wants, right? Or placental abruption, no good. So there's pregnancy risks, also increased risk of Alzheimer's in the elderly population, right, with high homocysteine. So there's a lot of things that we really want to avoid here. And so we want to keep that homocysteine in a little bit tighter range. So the research has shown, like a New England Journal of Medicine study showed that carotid artery thickening and stenosis risk begins to increase for men by 9.2 micromoles per liter, although the risk for women seems to remain stable until 11.4 micromoles per liter. You will notice that both of those are well under the 15 micromoles per liter that's considered to be normal range, right? Also, a meta-analysis published by the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, shows that a 3 micromole per liter decrease in homocysteine leads to 11% lower risk of ischemic heart disease and 19% lower risk of stroke, which seems pretty bloody worth it, right? Also, there's a linear relationship between homocysteine levels and death in patients with coronary disease. So, homocysteine lower than 9 micromoles per liter is a 3.4% risk of death. 9 to 14.9, 8.6 risk of death. Above 15 micromoles per liter, 24.7% risk of death. Now, I think keeping things below 9 micromoles per liter makes sense here because, frankly, I would rather have a 3.4% risk of death than an 8.6% risk of death. So I say, and this is according to me only, the optimal range for homocysteine is between 6 and 9 micromoles per liter, because after 9 we start seeing some shady things. Also with COVID-19, we saw an increased risk for pathological lung changes on a CT at 8 micromoles per milliliter. So yeah, I'm saying ideal level for your homocysteine, especially with MTHFR, is between 6 and 9 micromoles per liter. To note, we are not aiming for 0, right? We do need some of that homocysteine for the cellular energy and for glutathione production. So we will be talking more about homocysteine in the following weeks, but just remember optimal between 6 and 9. Take a look at your blood tests if your doctor hasn't run it. It's an inexpensive, easy test. It's not difficult and it's not controversial. It's a pretty normal test. So it's a good one to get. Tuesday tip for now. Thanks, guys. Bye.